Hello, everyone. This is Arvin the Perry Hacker. We are live. When I say we, Michelle Hayward and I are on a YouTube live right now, and I am about to get interviewed, everyone. Michelle is a respected engineer turned entrepreneur. She is definitely going through her journey as an entrepreneur, and she is interviewing me, everyone, in a few minutes. And just, hey, hello, Marcia, how are you? She will be interviewing me in just a few moments, everyone. If you go to the link in the title, which is perryhacks.com, you will see right when you get there, you will see a link to join us on YouTube right now. So again, my friend and colleague, well respected in the engineering space as well as I came out of engineering. She's about to do an interview on my journey from corporate engineering, leaving my six-figure salary to start my own company. And looking forward to having you guys over on this side. Go to perryhacks.com to join. You will see a link on my my home page. Okay, you don't have to go to any other page. Just go to the home page, and you will see a link to the live stream. Hey, what's up, Bill? Roll Tide, yes, sir. We will definitely talk a little football and how that has also inspired me as an entrepreneur. So anyway, everybody, join us over here on YouTube. Tootie, Doctor, how are you? How are you? Jolly Ranger, how are you? Get over here, go to perryhacks.com, and everybody say hi to Michelle. I'm getting ready to periscope her. Say Michelle. Say hi, Michelle.
Hi. Hi, everybody.
What do you want to tell them?
I want you guys to come over and learn that the road to entrepreneurship is not always smooth. There are a lot of bumps, hills, and sometimes mountains. And find out what you learn every time you fail, at least what Arvin did, and how this time is different for him.
All right, there it is. So that's Michelle. We're getting ready to get started in a few minutes. Of course, there's a couple of minutes of prep time. So I will see you all on the flip side. Go to perryhacks.com, join from that page there. Okay, coming over. Awesome. Looking forward to seeing you all. See you in a few bits. All right. See ya. Awesome. There it is.
Okay, great, great. All right, so this is what I'll do. I'll kick off the show, and then I will have you introduce yourself, what you want to add, and then I'll ask a few questions throughout the show, go about 30, 45 minutes.
Okay.
And then at the end, be sure to tell everybody where they can find you.
Wonderful. I would love that. Yes, 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 yes. Can you see me? Can you hear me okay?
I can see you. I can see you.
Audio's good?
Yeah, audio's great.
Wonderful. It's that iMac. It's that MacBook Pro. You know.
I would know. I'm low dollar. I'm low dollar. I'm HP.
I'm low dollar too. I Craigslist this thing. What you talking about? We'll talk about that too.
Yeah, the hustle is real. The hustle is real.
Let me tell you, the hustle is real.
Yeah, we talked about travel. Yeah, we got to talk about travel, like the thing, how you switch that mindset on travel, because I'm struggling with that right now.
Yeah, turning travel into a business.
Yes.
And enjoy on the other side. Yep.
Exactly. So, Mr. Starbucks. Okay. So I'll go ahead and get started since we are already broadcasting live. So welcome everybody. My name is Michelle Hayward, and by day I'm a construction engineer, and by night I'm a strategic business coach. What I do on my show, from entrepreneur to entrepreneur, and an entrepreneur is an entrepreneur who has an engineering or a STEM degree. What I do is I interview various professionals in STEM. Some are still working full-time in their corporate jobs while they're starting their business up. And others are like Arvin Poole here, who is a full-time entrepreneur. And I bring them on this show to talk about their journey. And engineering's journey, engineers or STEM professionals' journeys sometimes are a bit different because we come from a well-paid, well-respected industry. So we often hear, well, why would you leave your good job to do that? That is even from my family, even from other entrepreneurs. So I always like to bring them on to let them discuss what their journey is, why they left their good paying job in a well-respected industry, and to hear their story and for you to learn from them as well as for me. So today, welcome, Arvin. How are you doing?
Thank you, Michelle. I'm glad to be here. I'm doing great, enjoying this awesome weather across Texas, particularly in Austin here. So I'm enjoying it. Thank you for the invite. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. I know we've tried this a few months ago and it didn't work out, so I'm glad it worked out today. So can you tell the audience a bit about yourself, your background, your degree, and where you currently are in your business, and then we'll go back a few years.
Okay. All right, cool. I'll definitely do that. So I am originally from Alabama. That's where I was born and raised, grew up there, did all of my schooling there up to undergrad. I'm in Alabama. I went to school at Alabama, but I finished up my actual electrical engineering degree from the University of Alabama in Huntsville. So go Chargers. We're a hockey and tennis team, and basketball, not much of a football team. But that was in Huntsville, Alabama. Then right after that, I took the jump to go to West Coast for the very first time. I left Alabama to start my engineering career with IBM Corporation as a test engineer. And from that point on is when I really realized how valuable my degree was. You know, I'm going through engineering school, and actually I left Alabama because I did have some personal, financial, and family matters to take care of. And so leaving school to take care of family and going back to school, that was kind of my first wake-up call. Hey, I'm an adult now. I just can't lean on mom. And so fast forward now, wow, that was about 10, 11, 12 years ago. I am now in Austin, Texas, after, you know, a 15-year stint with corporate America, in and out of corporate, obviously, but now I'm here as a digital marketer running a very fast-paced business agency around marketing and web development, very competitive space, but learning now this time how to really build a niche within my space. And I would love to share some of the things I'm doing now to grow my business. So
Great. I love it. So I'm
getting feedback. Okay. Is it from me? Do I need to put my headset on?
Let me check something.
Okay. I have them ready to go if I need them. So
okay, I don't hear it anymore.
Okay, gotcha.
So
I'm going to go ahead and put them in though, Michelle, just in case, because I know you're probably recording. So let me put these in, and I'll just use the microphone. There we go. Michelle, can I hear you now?
Yes.
Yep, I hear you. Got it.
Great.
All right, we're good.
So my first question is, when did you first decide to leave corporate? How far were you into your career, and what was that first time like?
Yeah, so this is an interesting question because, you know, spending as much time as I did on, you know, obtaining my electrical engineering degree with all the challenges that I faced, the student loans that I piled up, you know, single parent family, not married, no kids, none of that. But it was, you know, one of those things that, wow, I can go do something else that my friends are doing and make money now versus going to get my degree. But my mom was an educator, and she really instilled in me early on how important it was to own my own education. And that was at least getting your own degree, right? And, you know, today is a little different, I think, and in many cases around entrepreneurship, you really don't need to have an engineering degree or a degree in general to run your business. But for me, it was a more sense of ownership to show my children, my two girls, that, hey, doesn't matter what you decide to do in your life and your career, no one can ever take away your education. And so obtaining the engineering degree, it really opened up a lot of other avenues, even with entrepreneurship. Being in business while I was in school to pay for my education, I learned a lot around street cred, right? What I call a streetpreneur. And being a street entrepreneur, meaning that you're just trying to find your right space, the things that, you know, it's going to help you survive. But I really wasn't following my passion, Michelle. I was really trying to fit in where I can make money to survive, basically. But once I got my engineering degree and started working in corporate America, yeah, I really saw a different side of how businesses were ran. And from that angle, it was the business models, working in the tech industry, how products are actually developed. You know, I was on the back end of creating products, being innovative, being creative. that entire product cycle of not only creating the product, but getting customers to actually use your product and then supporting those products and services after they're released to market. Some things that they don't teach you in the streets, they say, okay, go build these, go create 100 t-shirts and go sell them at an event, or, you know what I mean? Or go build your application over here, but they don't teach you how to support that app or keep customers happy with building new products. So fast forward, Michelle, my stint this time is I am applying all of those things that I've learned, not only while I was an engineer, going through IBM, and Dell was another company I worked for 3 years as a marketer, but also the things I've learned in the 3 or 4 times that I've been in and out of corporate. And the very first time I left IBM, or I left corporate, was in 2009 on my own, no layoff or anything. It was my decision. It was a very tough decision to make. It took me a year to really push the button, but a year prior to me leaving, I put a plan together, Michelle, and said, you know what? This is my opportunity to go out and at least try it. If it doesn't work, I can always go back. I have an electrical engineering degree. I'm sure somebody will hire me, right? And so I went out on my own. I built a business around management and consulting, management consulting and business consulting, helping startups to actually start their own businesses, but also around technology and innovative, creative products. I did a stint with the government. So I was a subcontractor for the Air Force. I signed a 7-year contract. It was a 4-year contract with the renewable for 3 extra years. After my 4-year contract was over, I said, I like this space, but I really want to get back into creating like technical products. Like that was my space. And I ended up actually going back to corporate in 2010 to work for Dell as a marketer, because I needed to, I didn't feel like I was, to be honest with you, Michelle, I didn't feel like I was primed to be a successful entrepreneur to really scale my business. And so at that point is when I went back to corporate. It wasn't with the intent of going to work and leaving. It was more for the intent that I think I need more experience. And that was, to me, sort of a wake-up call at that point, is that I started my business. I know what it's like to do it, and I will come back to it when I'm ready. So let's fast forward a little bit more, 3 years into my job. I say, you know what? I really love what I'm doing. Maybe I'll just, stick with this career, until I feel like I'm ready to move to my next level, which is, going to maybe to executive management or, a startup company. I don't know. But at that point, I was very, very, very happy. But in February 2013, I get a letter saying, come to my office, Arvin, tomorrow, and we need to talk about alignment. Alignment as resource actions, right? And I had never gone through a resource action for, with me being involved. I've been a manager where I've had to actually, lay people off, which is not a good feeling at all when you know people personally and they have families and children. That's a very, very, it's a tough place to be, but it's part of your job. You have to do it for the sake of the business. But I was on that side now, and I was part of maybe a 600-person resource action at Dell. And it was the wake-up call that I didn't expect, but it was a wake-up call that I needed to say, you know what? Entrepreneurship is not a choice for me. It is actually something mandatory for me to succeed in. And at that point, I said, I will never ever again put all my eggs in one basket again, because, just like I'm loyal, but we only get paid for the time that we work for a company. That's it. Same thing when you hire somebody, you only pay them for the time that they are working. And that's it. Don't think that you can get in a company and work for them for 30 years and get your gold watch and your retirement plans. Those days are long gone. So that was my wake-up call right there in 2013, is when I actually said, you know what? I am going out to make sure that my business next time is sustainable and scalable.
I love a couple things that you said. The first being, you had learned working your business through college, what to do and what not to do. You learned that, and then you went to corporate and you fell in love with what you did, but you knew it wasn't for you.
Exactly.
So for a lot of people, especially engineers, if you're of color or you're a woman, you hit a lot of walls. And that sometimes makes you want to leave in itself. But you had already been on the entrepreneurship side before you went to corporate. And yours is really interesting because you're the first one I've met yet as far as engineers. Were you around any family members who were entrepreneurs? That's one question I wanted to ask you first.
Sure. Well, my father, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. All right, cool. So my father passed when I was 7 years old, and I really didn't get a chance to really get to know him as in my adult life or teenage life. But he was an entrepreneur. My dad did not finish his high school degree, but he had to survive. He took care of his family, and he worked his butt off. I mean, I rarely saw my dad as a kid because he was working so much. But when I did see him, even at a tender age of 7 years old, I sort of knew that this guy owned his own business. I mean, he owned his own destiny. He made his own calls. And it was through probably some of the things that I didn't know about until I was older, that a lot of those were through adversity. They were through rejection. They were through lack of education, maybe even lack of opportunity to get an education. But it was also, at the end of the day, his choice and his decision to take care of his family. Whereas, we have that ultimate choice to make in our lives. So for me, in my family, I didn't have a lot of people in entrepreneurship that I could go to, like in my immediate family. My mom was an educator. My sister is an educator. Everyone was more on the education and corporate and career side. And that was how I grew up, to go to school, get your degree, go work for a company for 30 years, retire. But I was always that kid that went against the grain, always. And, I think in my nature, in my blood, Michelle, is if you tell me I can't do it, that's more of a reason for me to do it. And, going to University of Alabama was another first. There wasn't many people in my immediate family that actually went to a majority white college, where most of my family went to historically black colleges. And my philosophy around that was, look here, I don't want to I'm not dissing my HBCUs, because I do still support them. I would love for my kids to go to HBCUs. But for me, it was, I needed an opportunity where when I got through with my schooling in engineering, that I can make the money to give back to those schools that wasn't afforded the opportunity maybe for kids to go to school there. And so that was my whole intent, was for me is getting an education and then do what I need to do to go back and support the generation behind me, my children, my children's children, so they can see how powerful it is to actually go to an HBCU.
I love it. You answered my question. Every entrepreneur I've met that is also an engineer, they've had at least one person who's influenced them to be an entrepreneur. For me, it was my mother. You said an educator. My mother's an educator, but she had her own daycare for over 30 years, and she does real estate. So she was that person for me. So it was she always had multiple streams of income too, doing various things through her business. So that's why I was like, let me ask you this, because I've yet to find one engineering entrepreneur who has not had at least one entrepreneur in their family to model themselves after. So great to know. So I like the HBCU. I want to go into that a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
So now you realize you love what you do. You've learned a lot in corporate. You leave in 2009, because nobody's leaving their job in 2009. Everybody is laid off in 2000. Everybody's
pretty much.
Somebody is happy. Arvin Poole left his job. There's like, somebody quit. What you mean somebody quit? They're talking about you like you got to be the craziest person to quit a job in 2009 with benefits, right?
Yeah.
So when is 2009 and you're looking at, you know what, I'm walking away from this job. I've started this business. You had that 1 year exit plan. What was that 1 year exit plan, and how did you go about figuring out what you needed to do for your exit strategy?
Well, hindsight, I look at my 1 year, my 365-day exit plan. I started my exit plan well before actually I put it into action. And And it wasn't exit from IBM or exit from corporate. It was actually exit from being in a place where I didn't feel like I was living my true passion and my true dream, right? And so I want to just say this: IBM was a huge influence in my career, in my life. 10 years with a company has to have some sort of influence on you. I've met so many people there that is still today I continue to communicate with, I continue to connect with, and you can't burn these kind of bridges. So that's why I'm very careful when I say I'm leaving somewhere. You're not really leaving, you're just going to the next stage in your development cycle, or your development steps, I would say, and you're creating a pathway that maybe if you didn't explore these areas of opportunity, you would never know what they would be like to experience. And it was more for me to experience things that I had never been able to experience it, nor anyone in my family has been able to experience it. There's very few people I can say in my immediate family. In fact, I think I'm the only one that has an engineering degree, an MBA, and also had a great career and ended up starting my own company. And so with that, it was more having true freedom over the decisions that I thought were important for me to grow into myself, and also to be a corporate citizen, even as an entrepreneur. Because even as an entrepreneur, I'm stumbling over my words, Michelle. Even as an entrepreneur, you still need to understand how the corporate game works. People say I'm going to isolate myself from this. I'm going to quit my job. I think that's the worst mistake you can make. When you're working for a company, you need to understand every single facet of how that business operates and the industry that they are in, and then take away the key things that are important to help you succeed in your career, because you're still going to have customers. You're still going to have to buy from companies. You are still going to have to compete with big companies, whether you think you're competing with them or not. Trust me, they are watching you as a small business, okay? For partnerships, do not burn bridges with the companies you work for, because eventually you may be a supplier to that company. Your customers, that some of my customers now, guess what? They were former customers where I worked at Dell. So you still need to really tread lightly and look at your job, your entrepreneur venture, as a job, in the sense that you are still learning and growing in your own business, but you still need to take the things that you learn from corporate and continue to apply and learn as you go.
Absolutely, absolutely agree. That's one of the things I explain to design engineers. Like, you're great at design, but what do you know about contracts?
Right.
What do you know about contracts?
Right.
What do you know about scheduling? What do you know about procurement? And a lot of times, especially in the design side, they don't see any of that. They're told, hey, here's the foundations you're going to design. I need them by this date.
Right.
That's it. And they're very good. Engineers are very good at their technical skill set, but to understand the overall business aspect, they don't. So one of the things I always do is I encourage, like you went back for marketing, yep. I encourage them to go learn from different departments. And I said, nobody goes to talk to contracts and sit down and say, hey, you mind showing me the different parts? I said, they'd be like, oh, I love to show you. Nobody goes to talk to these departments, especially the engineer. So they will be more than happy to spend time teaching you. So you went back to marketing. So I want to focus on that. So you found that after you left and went out on your own in 2009, you needed to learn about marketing, and you were willing to go back to corporate to learn it. What was it? Was it just marketing, or how did you sell yourself? Because you've been in a different space and you left. How did you sell your skill set to go back into corporate in an area you hadn't been in previously? And it sounds as though you did not take a management role in that position.
Right, exactly. I went from management to a individual contributor. Well, I've never shared this publicly, but let me open up and share how I actually went back to corporate. So when I exited IBM back in 2009, it was sort of I forced myself to take a leap of faith, but also do it with precise execution, right? But the thing that, as an engineer, everything can't be perfect. We want things to be perfect. We have the formula, we have the algorithms, but in business, it's not always about a formula. You have to go and do it. Execution is like the biggest thing that I can say that I've learned in the business side. Things are much faster. You have to fail faster, as in corporate America, or even in a startup that has a business growing. You still need to be nimble, but you need to be quick, and you need to make decisions fast so that company is not absorbing, these losses over a long period of time. And I learned how to operate in a lean environment. Trust me, as soon as I got in the fire, I was like, wait a minute, there's money in my account that's bleeding and I'm not even doing anything. We don't see that when we work for corporate America. We have a budget. We're going, yes, we do. We do in a sense, right? We're held accountable to those metrics. But an individual contributor coming out of college, they're not quite exposed to the business side yet, and they're still trying to craft their skill. For me, Michelle, and going through what I did, Dell's entrance came from actually a relationship that I had with a supplier. One of my contractors that I was working with was doing business with Dell. So that contract led me to a Dell opportunity. So although I wasn't actually looking to go back to work for corporate, I was looking for my next contract. The opportunity with Dell came at a time where it just sort of blindsided me, and it was an opportunity to get into a senior level. It was the next level to director level in marketing within the vertical that I worked in. And it was a very tough decision to leave my company, but my contract was running out. And at that time, I knew what it took to get these contracts. And I said, you know what, I'm going to pray about this. I prayed over it. And I ended up going back to work for Dell because it helped me now to go into an area I pretty much had never done before formally. But then I also was able to leverage all the things that I did as an entrepreneur. I think without my entrepreneurial experience, I never would have been introduced to this opportunity. So I want to say this one thing. Although you're an entrepreneur, you are still always being interviewed and you're being looked at, you're being watched, and people, trust me, they respect your craft as an entrepreneur as long as you are respecting the space that you're in, right? And so I'm very hesitant to ever dog any company I've worked for, even though there are times where I feel like I wasn't treated fairly. I always try to turn that into a positive and how I can learn from that and teach others to learn from those same things I've gone through to help them be a better entrepreneur or a better engineer or a person who's working in corporate America. So those are things I took away. And that's how I actually ended back in a corporate from an opportunity that I had as a business owner.
That's phenomenal. I really love that. So you're in marketing, it's 2013 and they're giving you the pink slip or a severance package.
Yep.
I got the package today. What were your next step when you knew this opportunity had ended? What did you do after that?
I was scared. I'm not even gonna, let's just cut the chase. I was afraid because I was not prepared to leave. And it was sort of a shock to me because I knew that I was experienced. I knew that I was in an area that, I was pretty much, I had a lot of years coming out of IBM, and then I had a background of entrepreneurship. I don't know what attributed to it outside of the layoffs, but obviously in management, there are always discussions that go on behind closed doors. You never know. And, again, just protecting my interests as a corporate employee with the company that I work for. I want to be very open though and say that it's not created equal. It doesn't matter how many years of experience you have. It doesn't matter what your resume looks like. It's really about who you know. It's really about who you know and protecting, things that are important to you and making sure that you're always prepared for these kind of what I call these events that happen in your life when you're not prepared, which I wasn't prepared to leave corporate at that time. It was a wake-up call. It was the biggest wake-up call for me because now it forced me to actually learn how to be a successful entrepreneur and a successful business owner. Not the way I went through it before where I had a year. I didn't have a year to plan, right? I was fortunate enough to get some sort of severance, and in entrepreneur terms, we call that startup capital. We call those severance plans startup capital because we have to now go find a way to create a business opportunity with the little that we have. But the difference between this second time, Michelle, and the first time is that I wasn't married. No, I was married with children, with 2 kids, young. Whereas the second time I wasn't married and I still am a father. So, on the other side, there's a responsibility to my children to make sure that, hey, whatever I do, they always have to be at the forefront of every financial decision that I make. And jumping out there without knowing what my next move was, it put me in a vulnerable state as like, dang, I can't go from 6 figures now to doing all the things that I was doing, making sure that my kids go to these camps and those kind of things, to now I'm running out of money. What do I do? And for a whole year, 2013 to 2014, I was pretty much living, the same lifestyle as I was working, but without the income. And that's not good. How do you reduce quickly? And that was, I want to just share this because a lot of people, we get conditioned in our income salaries. We get conditioned and think, oh, okay, I can make this up in a month. I can do this in 3 years or 3 months, right? It never happened, Michelle. It never happened. I applied for jobs as I was trying to build a business, and I was actually spending more money now because I was, not only looking for work, I was trying to start a new business, And it was a frantic moment for me because I had also gone through, a divorce, just recently. And so having all these things, turn upside down, you become like emotionally, almost like you hit this wall of failure. Like, how did I get here? How did I go from, 15 years in corporate, a successful contract with the Air Force, 4 years, did very well, to a career with a company that is well respected here in Austin and around the world, to now nothing. I went from here to here in like a year. And so my confidence level was still there, but I felt like my bar to compete in corporate America was slowly drifting, because the more time that I was removed from corporate, I felt like I was becoming more and more irrelevant. And even today, I still kind of feel that way. It's kind of tough for me if I want to go back to work in corporate America, doing a resume now, and they look at your timelines like, okay, what did you do from here? I own my own business. Well, what did you do? Here are the things I did. Well, gosh, you did a lot. Well, yeah, CEOs and entrepreneurs of their own business do a lot of things. We wear a lot of hats, right? So people who don't understand that the world that you have to go through as an entrepreneur, they may not necessarily get it. And so you have to always, conform what you do as an entrepreneur still back to corporate terminology. And that's one of the things that I've had to learn over time, is that every single month and every single quarter and every single year, the longer I'm away from corporate, I still have to make myself relevant in the work that I'm doing in my job. It needs to directly relate to whatever job I may apply for, even as a contractor or as a job that I'm doing for a customer. The reason is I have to go back and relate that to my past work in corporate and tie it to where I am today. Otherwise, people cannot interpolate, they can't translate it, and they just look at you as somebody that is running their own business, and you probably don't have the value that we need for this company. That's how I feel. I'm not saying that's the fact. That's how I feel today as an entrepreneur in this space.
I absolutely agree with you. A project manager I've worked with, he ran his own business for a few years, but he also, before he left corporate, he worked for companies where he built divisions for them. Mm-hmm. So he already knew how to start a business. He just had to come up with his own capital when he went out on his own.
Right.
So when he went to come back to corporate, people were like, well, what did you do? What do you mean you had your own business? They didn't know how to translate it. Well, fortunate for him, we had a VP that, like, if he know how to run his business, he can tab my job. I don't understand why 2 levels down, we asking what he can't why would we give him a job? Obviously, he's overqualified. If
Right.
he's applying, obviously he wants to work.
Right.
So we look past that. But like you said, it took several companies would not call him back. Recruiters would not call him back. So it took one person who understood the value of what he did as an entrepreneur, as well as what he done in corporate, to understand he was a true value. And let me tell you, when I say stellar work, he's run a project for 6 months on his own, pretty much from beginning to end, because he understands the back end. He understands how to relate to customers. He understands how to relate to contractors.
Right.
And you don't get that so much from engineers who have been in corporate in that one role. So you're unique because you did it while you're in college making income. You did it, you left and went back to corporate, and then you left again. So it is the culmination of those. And I think a lot of companies miss that in certain ways. And one of those ways is they're fearful that you're going to leave again because you know how to operate your own business.
That's it. And let me speak to that, Bill. Not only are employers fearful of typically what happens when you start a company, right? You need to be forthfront and honest and say, you know what, I failed. As opposed to painting this picture that you're in a business, you did well. Well, if you're doing so well, why are you applying for a company? You know, and you don't need to focus on just your successes. You need to focus on what did you do to get through your first year? What did you do to overcome this obstacle of creating income and generating a profit? Were you profitable? And if not, why were you not profitable, right? You need to translate it in terms where now they understand that not only do you understand what you had to go through to learn how to be an entrepreneur, but how can you apply this in a role that you may want to work for in a company so that it doesn't happen to their company. You have to put their interests. And as an entrepreneur, it's really about the customer. When you go apply for a job, who's the customer? Who's the customer? The customer is that company because they're paying you, right? They're the customer. So because they're paying you to do work. It's a trade-off, but the mind shift as an entrepreneur, when you are an employee, your employer is the customer. Your employer is the customer because they're paying you a check to do something. That's how I look at it today, right? And then you also have to understand how important their customers are to them and your direct line of impact to that customer for that company. If you can translate customer value from what you've done as an entrepreneur, you may not ever have to leave your job or your business venture because now you understand what customer value is.
Yes.
I didn't understand what customer value was, Michelle, the first time. I kind of knew what it was the second time, and this is my third time, right? It's my third time. I didn't talk about leaving just recently, but the third time it clicked. It said, okay, I form my business by creating value that is important for those who spend money for my products and services. In a nutshell, it's not about selling, it's about creating value that people are willing to spend money for, and then understanding that those people that are spending money on your products and services, those are the most important people of your business that you have to make sure that you are taking care of and listen to their needs. Your products and services actually stem from their comments, their feedback, incorporating those changes. And if you don't do that, then you're not listening to them. And then there's going to be another company next door to you that's going to have a different name, but they're going to be selling a different product that is basically competing with yours. So that's the big difference I made is understanding customer value and the customer journey.
So let's go to the most recent time, the last time, the final time we're going to call it, that you left to start your business. Because we've talked about it online, but I want the viewers to understand what this third and final time is for you, why, and where
we're not going to say final. We'll just say third.
Okay, we'll go with third. You want to stick with third? I'll let you stick with third this time. Today, I'll let you stick with third today.
All right, got you. My mind shift has completely changed around. We are a resource. We're in an environment today, and I think this is really important to understand that, you know, over the next 10 to 20 years, we're going to see it. We're starting to see it now, but you are a resource. You are an allocated resource. And if you're not valuable, a valuable add to that company, then you're not going to fit into that company's DNA or that company's fabric. You may be able to get away with it for some time, but the days of seniority is, to me, long and gone, especially in the industry that we are in. Understanding this also is that coming out of school today, labor is a lot less expensive than it is to pay me what I feel like I am valuable at, what my true wage should be. And that is continuing to go down. There are so many people I know who has 10 and 20 years of engineering experience, Michelle, and they're having to take something half of what they've made 10 years ago, right, in order to stay in the same business or industry. And it's really sad, but it's no longer this model of seniority. And then when I started to understand this model of commoditized resources, me as one individual who's getting paid, I was like, wait a minute, why am I, you know, putting myself in this rat race of trying to compete at a salary that I probably won't make at doing what I'm doing today? Why can't I create my own model of generating revenue and income and multiply and scale that so that now I don't have to worry about going to apply for another job? But as I do this, and I'll talk about the third time I left, Michelle, as I do this and go through this cycle of understanding how to create scale for my business, I am always thinking back to whenever I was working as an employee, what were the things that attracted me to that company? Because in order to be a successful entrepreneur, you need to know what it feels like to be a valuable employee. And I had to go back and write down the things. What made me want to stay with that company, and what were the things that made me frustrated? And so instead of focusing on things that made me frustrated, I wanted to focus on the things that made me happy. And so those are the things that I want to indoctrinate in my company. Anytime I hire someone, I want to make sure that they are happy every single day, that they wake up and say, you know what, I look forward to coming to work for Arvin or with Arvin, right? And I look forward to helping him with his company grow, because he's going to reciprocate that back and help me grow in my career. So the third time I left, I didn't feel like that company knew what my value was. And, you know, more importantly, it was a job that really was way out of my skill set. And, you know, I took a chance on it, and it was a full stack developer, basically. And I was doing PHP development. Although I am a developer, it wasn't a career path that I thought I wanted to be in for 10 years of my life, or even 5 years. I wanted to get back into management and executive management. And the career path was just it wasn't the right path for me. But I felt getting into a role as a developer now has actually enhanced my value to my company as a web developer. And so that's what I do today. Not only do I develop, I also run a business for a web development company, where I know now how to hire skill sets or skills that I need to do the jobs that my customers pay me for, but also how to retain the resources to make sure that those employees and those contractors are completely happy with the work that they're doing.
I really enjoy the way you said that, because what it shows is through each iteration that you've gone in and out of corporate to entrepreneurship, you've grown, you've learned, and you still come back to say entrepreneurship is where I really want to be, but this is what I've learned and how much I've grown each time. So I like how you tie that all in together. Like, this wasn't a good fit, but this is what I learned from it. This is how I'm leveraging it in my business and how I'm moving forward with it. So I absolutely love that, because I call the show Entrepreneurship is About Learning from Failure, this episode. And each time you've talked about what went well when you left, what didn't go well, why you went back, what may not have gone well in corporate, like getting the package or severance.
Mm-hmm.
And then like that year was just like floundering, trying to figure out one or the other. I want to go back to that 1 year, 2013.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think if you had focused on one or the other, whether it be an employee or entrepreneur, would you have been better off where you put one in front of the other?
I'm probably your typical unicorn, and I don't think I don't think there's a right and wrong way. I think everyone has their own experience and their own journeys. For me, I knew that I need to be challenged. I know that being in a corporate job and working, in the same thing, doing the same thing for years is not something that I'm going to be happy with. Can I give the value that that company wants out of that role? Absolutely. But it's more than just your skill set. It's also your ability to fit in with that culture, right? Fit in with that culture of that company. And I would have to say that out of every company that I've ever worked for, I feel like that I definitely fit in with the culture of the company. But my true passion was to still always be at a point in my career where I can have full control over my career. And as much as I've tried, Michelle, I think for me it is looking for a company who understands that, this person has a lot of value. They have a lot of skills that they can help us with this company, help us to grow that. And if you can translate that to any employer, if that employer understands the journey of entrepreneurship, they will see right away that entrepreneurs are extremely valuable resources. But getting over the fact that, picking one or the other, I am not going to pick one or the other. I think you have to know both. And I understand your question, Michelle. I just don't want to put myself in a situation where one is better than the other, because I think you need to be a great employee in order to understand how to be a great entrepreneur. And it's okay to go from entrepreneurship to corporate. When an employer understands that and they support someone's journey through that process and not look at it as a person's jumping all over the place, I think they will incorporate a much more productive and successful environment for their company.
I love the way you said, if you're not ready to be, you should be an employee before you're an employer. It leads me back to a saying that goes, if you're not ready to follow, you're not ready to lead. And I think everybody wants to be the boss, but nobody wants to really be the leader. And I think we see that a lot, especially in online marketing. Yep. People want to be whatever, but who are you following? I'm not following anybody. They don't want to learn from anybody. They just want to be the boss. Like, well, you can't lead if you're not willing to follow, learn, and grow. So what I really want the viewers to understand, especially about Arvin's journey, is he is continuously learning and growing through his journey, through corporate and through his entrepreneurship. So if you think you know everything, entrepreneurship and an employee is probably not for you. So I don't know what you're gonna call yourself, but in both roles, you have to be willing to learn and grow. As an entrepreneur, he said you got to fail fast and you have to learn and recover from them just as quickly. Yep. So if you are not good at making quick decisions, if you're not good at taking quick action, if you're not good at saying, okay, I failed, what went wrong, what went right, and analyzing that and making changes to see if you can improve, entrepreneurship really may not be for you. And that's what I tell for a lot of engineers. They aren't used to being reactive. They're planning. And like you said, you can't plan everything out.
That's right.
So if we have any engineers who listen to this, what would you tell them if they are truly interested in being entrepreneurs?
Don't quit your job. I'll be completely transparent about this. Okay, first and foremost, it's a process that you need to go through if you want to ever become an entrepreneur. Whether you're an engineer or whether you're in a technical field, where you spent a lot of years to invest in your career and you feel like going to entrepreneurship, now I'm going to just dump all these years of experience into the trash can. Don't look at it that way. Look at it as you have established a point in your career where you know you can actually be successful. You've obtained your degree, right? You've gotten this great corporate job. They're paying you a great salary. But if you're content with that, then accept that you're content with it. If you feel that at some point you are ready to now cross that bridge and go to entrepreneurship, I say personally, this is not rocket science, everybody. Make sure you have a financial plan in place and make sure you have people around you that you can take advice from who has gone through these steps before, or they have gone through entrepreneurship. And even more importantly, maybe someone who's in the same industry that you're in, that you're coming out of. Because that to me is probably where I feel like I may have needed more guidance, more mentorship early on, because although I was in corporate America, I was very successful. It was sort of this false sense of success as an entrepreneur. And when you get out there on your own, everyone, you don't have access to the same network as you do in corporate. You don't have, these free resources. You got to go pay for those things. And then you start lacking on your education and your training because you feel like you're always in the rat race of making money. And it should just be the opposite. You should invest in your education. You should invest in your network, and you should also invest in a plan for success. And that plan for success is way more than a business plan. That plan also includes your health, right? The things that are important to you, your values. What is truly important to you? Is it money, or is it, the freedom for time and being with your family? You need to know these things right up front, because if you're chasing after things just for the money, what's going to end up happening is that you're still going to end up in this unhappy state, and you're going to get really, really frustrated with entrepreneurship, and you're going to wonder why are you not succeeding. So those are things I give to any person, particularly an engineer that's in a highly skilled, trained areas, that you now got to wear multiple hats. You got to continue to train, and you need great people around you who has the scars, who understands that it takes a lot of failed points in your journey in order to hit that one successful mark in your entrepreneur journey.
Absolutely love it. Love it, love it, love it. So one thing I know we talked about briefly, we talked about it in January when we were both in line at the United counter, checking our bags in San Francisco and SFO.
Right.
It's travel. So I travel a lot in my corporate job. So I want to talk about, for those who especially even corporate, and the things you talked about, training now that you have to pay for. A lot of times we don't think about the travel aspect. So what are some things you've changed about travel now that you're on your own? So because people need to add this in, you're thinking you're coming up with this great financial plan, you realize it's 4, 5, 8 conferences you want to go to, and instead of having a budget, that budget is you. Where are you going to come up with the money? So what are some things people can do to prepare for their travel, as to grow their network, to meet people to network with, as well as get more business?
Well, first of all, you got to look at, how do you view travel? Do you view travel as a luxury, or you do travel as a means to get somewhere, or both, right? In corporate America, my travel is majority business related. I never had to come out of pocket for it. In fact, I think I made more money when I traveled because of per diem, food. I ate more food than I really needed to, simply because of per diem, right? And it's not that you're abusing it. It's just that, would you do this if you were on your own? And so that's why I said, when I look at, and this doesn't just apply to travel, Michelle, this also apply to any other necessity that's on your expense line for your business. And I view travel today just as if I view travel when I was a manager in corporate America, as travel is a means for me to get to a place in order for me to create more value for my business. Okay, that may be an expense, or it could be a profit opportunity. It could be meeting with a customer. It could be closing a deal. So when I travel, I always try to travel in terms that it's an expense, but it's an investment in order to grow my company. And so when I travel, I typically try not to come out of my own pocket. It's either an expense to to the people that are hiring me to speak. It's an expense for me to actually train, right? I need to learn different skill sets, but over time, that's going to return an investment on my business and me personally. Third is my travel is also is a means for me to connect with other people that I probably would not have been able to meet face to face. So I'm building my network. But as an engineer, is travel also the right choice for your business? We have tools like live streaming. So I think it's important that if you need to look at other alternatives, if travel is the last opportunity, then yes, do it. But if you're not taking advantage of live streaming, you're not taking advantage of all the online tools and the webinars and all those things like we're doing here, and you're spending all of your money in travel because you feel like this is your lifestyle and this is what you need to do, but you're not profiting from it and you're not returning investment on your company, then I think that's a bad trait for a CEO of a company. And you really need to look at how travel is actually going to create opportunity versus just an expense item.
I absolutely agree. I'm stuck on that corporate side. I love it when they're paying for everything. Being on the per diem is a little bit different for me because I'm always on per diem.
Yep.
Because I'm on the road. I'm literally on the road. If it's 30 days in a month, I'm on the road 25.
Wow. Yeah.
So for me, not having per diem, it's like, well, what do you guys do? Who pays for your food? But anyway, That's a different story.
Yep.
But
Yep.
I have some trips coming up. And it's like, wait, corporate's not paying for my hotel. I'm looking at this $900 estimate they're giving me for the hotel for the conference. Like, yeah, where's Airbnb? And you're finding those other ways. One thing I haven't been really willing to give up on is not booking through the airline. And people like, why won't you just go to Priceline? I said, because when issues arise, whether it's weather, mechanical, they're going to look like, oh, hi, Miss Hayward, you are a silver level or whatever. Right. And they will help you out. I even bought a last minute ticket in June. I spent over $700 for a ticket.
Right.
The event was canceled.
Did you pay for that or did your company pay for that?
I paid that $700.
Okay.
Yeah, I paid that $700. I was late. I didn't realize it was 10 days before the event. I was like, oh shoot, I hadn't bought a ticket yet.
Right.
I was smart enough to buy a refundable ticket directly from the airline.
Mm-hmm.
And I called them up. And the lady's like, ma'am, you have a refundable ticket. I said, yeah, but because I'm looking for the gray area. I'm not getting all my money back. She's like, no, ma'am, just go to this link, fill this in, you get your money back. 72 hours, I had my money back. So certain things.
Service. Yeah, I agree. So
certain things I'm not willing to. Airbnb is great, especially when you're looking to save money. But if I go to hotel chains where I have memberships with, I won't save the money. Mm-hmm. But if it's an emergency and I walk in I'm Diamond member with Hilton, yes, ma'am, we have a room available for you in the middle of the night. So it's some perks you get there that you give up and you're willing to take that risk. Mm-hmm. When you're an entrepreneur, because you really need to save the money or the money just isn't there. So I've learned to take more risks when it comes to travel, just not all of them. So I don't mind doing Uber. I'll stay at Airbnb. I have not given up on the airlines because I have been the person stuck in Detroit's airport even though it's a company ticket, I had no status. And they look at me like, so here's a voucher at the Ramada Inn. I'm like, I don't stay, Ramada.
Yeah. Yeah, so, and travel for me has been I haven't traveled as much, and it's because my business doesn't require me to travel as much as I used to. If I was a full-time public speaker, then yes, I would put more focus on getting to events. But I'll be clearly honest with you. I love to travel. It's one of the things I've had to scale back on personally because I don't have the opportunity to accrue all of those points anymore, right? I don't have the opportunity to get gold level and silver level status as I used to when I traveled every week with IBM and Dell. But today as an entrepreneur, as a CEO, you understand now the true value when you get on that plane is that when you get to that destination, you're working on the plane, you're working. And now when I go back to my corporate jobs, I really now see you know, when you put yourself in the shoe of the CEO, even as an employee, that's why it was always great for me coming out of entrepreneurship, going back to corporate, because now I have this mindset, I got to save this company $1. And so now I was more frugal. I was more, I had a lot more things that I thought about before I purchased that $9 internet connection for only 30 minutes when I can wait till I get to the next, you know, stop to click on internet, right? Or offline all of my emails so I have it accessible. You don't think about these things as an employee because you're like, oh, I have access to do this. I can pay for this. I'm gonna go ahead and pay $9 for this internet and watch my Southwest movie while I'm working, right? And so that changed immediately when I started understanding that every single dollar that someone spent, whether it was me or my resources, I had to look at ways to actually to make sure that my budget was always intact. And that's, to me, the number one thing as a business owner that you will learn real quick or you won't be in business very long.
Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. So, Arvin, I know we've been on for about an hour. So can you tell us where you are currently in your business and how the viewers can find you?
Sure. Okay. So I am currently, my business is, the company is called Perry Hacks, and I'll share a little bit about Perry Hacks, but I have a brand specifically with my Periscope audience and my live streaming audience that I created this brand a little bit over a year ago after exiting the last company I worked for. And that was on my choice. I wasn't laid off. I ended up leaving that company. And this third time is a charm. And I'll say it for this reason, is that I already had a business structure in place. So I didn't have to learn how to start a business. I knew how to do that part. Yep, that's it. So my company is perryhacks.com. And what perryhacks.com is, it's a place to gain access to resources, technical. Most of the work that I do are for clients who are looking for web solutions, websites, and now I'm starting to get more into the marketing side of online business, meaning your sales funnels, lead pages, building out your entire sales funnel journey for your customers so that you can nurture those clients and turn those into lifelong clients. So I'm learning how to do that. I mean, I've actually been doing that for a while, but learning how to incorporate this now into the rest of my brands, Michelle. My parent company is called Open Sesame. It's OpenSesa.me. It's the word OpenSesa.me. And I've had that company now since 2009. It is that's it. That's pretty much my parent company for every single brand that I currently own. And so you will hear probably more about Perry Hacks, since that is my B2C or B2B business, whereas Open Sesame is more my think tank. It's the place where I actually do all of my divestitures and investments. So
love it, love it, love it. So for those of you who aren't on Periscope, you can definitely find Arvin at Arvin Pool. His handle's at Arvin Pool, right?
Yep. It's Arvin. Yeah, my handle is Arvin Pool. Yes, on everything, on every social media, Periscope, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, everything is Arvin Pool. First name, last name.
So definitely check him out. Get to know Arvin. Continue to follow him in his journey. Maybe you will want to be a client of his web solutions. Arvin has actually built a landing page for me, and so it was great to meet him. Not only on Periscope, but I met him in person.
In the airport.
Yeah, that was funny. At the airport and at Summit Live.
Oh, at Summit. That's right. It was at Summit. That's right. That's right. That's right.
So, and then I saw him again a few months later in Atlanta for another Periscope or live streaming focus event. So you don't know, people always think we're weird anyway because we're engineers, but that further we meet people off the internet. So it happens. And there are always bad and weird people on the internet. There are really some good, genuine people. So
I got a business idea, by the way. You and I should collaborate on creating a Tinder for engineers. I'm sorry, I had to go there, but think about it from the engineering side. Oh my gosh, can you imagine the tools in Tinder?
we would have, you know what? We would make it open source. Because it would be less painful if it was an open source platform, because they would come in and tear us apart. They would
Exactly.
they would be open source. I'm not.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. A dating site for nerds. That would be great.
It would be. And it would, you know what? But we could do like calculus and physics problems, some programming in there, and group them together.
Absolutely.
We might have to work on that. We might have to work on that.
That might be the next big thing, you know?
Exactly. I absolutely agree. Yeah. So everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Arvin, for coming onto the show. I really appreciate it. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Michelle Hayward. I will be doing more broadcasts here on YouTube with other engineers, my fellow engineers, as I like to call them, so you can learn more about how we transition out of our corporate jobs into entrepreneurship, and that if you are stuck on having a strategy that is 100% you engineer, entrepreneurship is probably not for you, because you have to be able to bob and weave.
Yep.
And go with the highs and the lows, and just know that you can come through it, but you have to be willing to make those quick decisions and those quick changes.
Absolutely.
So thank you, everybody, for coming through. I will talk to you later.
Thank you, Michelle, for having me. I appreciate it. And can I give a quick little plug before you exit?
Sure. Go ahead.
So I will be this Sunday, or next Monday, I will be porting out of Miami for perrycruise.com. So perrycruise.com is my next speaking event. It will be on the ocean. I'm not sure if I think there are still cabins available, and they're reduced. That's it, perrycruise.com. I had to plug this because this is my next big event. It's going to be huge because I'm on the ship with nothing but great, talented female speakers, which is awesome. You know, it's like my first time actually speaking with an all-female crew. So I'm super, super excited about learning from each of the women entrepreneurs, because I think as a business owner as well, Michelle, we have to understand what women want as consumers and also as a business owner.
I absolutely agree. One, consumer product companies like Kimberly-Clark have the largest number of women engineers.
Yes.
And they understand the value of women.
Yes.
Other engineering industries have not understood this or picked this up yet. Right. And Kimberly-Clark is killing the game.
Yep.
Across that.
You're really kicking it in our GDP, seriously, in the US. Yes. So thank you.
Where are you leaving port out of, and when does the ship leave port?
So the ship ports out of Miami on next Monday. So tomorrow's the 3rd. So the 10th, October 10th, and it comes back into Miami on the 14th. So we'll be out on sail 10th, come back on the 14th. And Perry Cruise is a culmination of great entrepreneurs and speakers, but they're opening Perry Cruise, the event itself, up to the entire ship, which is a huge opportunity for each of the speakers. So
great. All right. Definitely check Arvin if you can definitely take a week off last minute and find a great cheap ticket to Miami and catch that cruise. I definitely want you guys to hear what Arvin has to say on the cruise, as well as the other speakers. Thank you, Arvin, so much again.
Thank you, Michelle, for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody. See ya.